On March 14, 1989, accountant Richard Holloway submitted a quarterly report to Mercer and Associates that listed the names of 7 employees alongside projected death dates, none of whom died for another 18 months. Richard Holloway had worked at Mercer and Associates in Portland for 22 years. Quiet man. Divorced. Kept his desk organized with the kind of precision that made younger employees uncomfortable. He handled the firm's internal accounting, payroll, benefits reconciliation, expense tracking. Nothing unusual. Nothing that would suggest he had access to information no one else possessed. On the afternoon of March 14th, he submitted his quarterly reconciliation to the accounting director, Margaret Chen. The report was standard format. 7 columns, line items corresponding to each department head, figures in black ink. Except on page 3, in what should have been the depreciation schedule column, Holloway had written 7 names. Next to each name, a date. Not in the future. He wasn't predicting. The dates were already written, as though he were recording something already known. Margaret Chen called him into her office. She asked him directly, why were employee names on a financial document? Why were dates of death listed in a depreciation column? Holloway's response, according to Chen's handwritten memo from that day, was, they're already gone. I'm just balancing the account. He was terminated immediately. Security walked him out at 3:47 p.m. The 7 names were Thomas Reeves, middle manager, listed date June 3, 1990. Patricia Moss, administrative assistant, listed date November 8, 1990. David Kern, senior counsel, listed date February 19, 1991. And 4 others. What happened next is what no one could explain. Thomas Reeves died of a cerebral aneurysm on June 3, 1990. Exactly the date Holloway had written. Patricia Moss died in a car accident on November 8, 1990, the exact date. David Kern on February 19, 1991. All of them. Every single name on Holloway's list. Every single date correct, down to the day. The Portland Police Department opened an investigation into Holloway for suspicion of murder. They found no evidence he was near any of the death scenes. No contact with the deceased in months before their deaths. No motive for 3 of them. He'd never met 2 employees on the list. No poison, no sabotage, no physical mechanism they could identify. When detectives asked him how he knew, Holloway gave statements that were consistent but offered no explanation. The numbers told me. The account was unbalanced, and those were the adjustments needed to make it even. He was never charged. There wasn't enough to prosecute. Richard Holloway died in a psychiatric facility in Salem in 1996. His admission records list him as catatonic from 1991 onward. His final intake evaluation notes that he spent hours each day writing numbers on the walls of his room. Long sequences with no mathematical relationship, no pattern that could be decoded. What remains unresolved is how he obtained those dates. More specifically, whether he was recording deaths that had already happened in some reference frame he could access, or whether the act of writing them down made them inevitable. The 7 people on his list all died exactly as predicted. No one has ever found a mechanism, medical, psychological, or otherwise, that explains either possibility. By 6:15 p.m., she was dead. The death certificate lists acute myocardial infarction, a heart attack. The problem is there was no operative note, no surgical record, nothing documenting what Fell did inside her body for the 43 minutes he was in the operating room. Fell kept meticulous records. 37 years of surgeries, all logged. Cross-referenced vitals, closure times, instrument counts. The man documented everything. But Patricia Voss's file contained only the dictation tape of his summary, and a blank operative template with her name printed at the top. Hospital protocol required documentation within 2 hours of surgery.
The nursing supervisor, Eleanor Cross, checked at 5:30. Fell's office was empty. His desk drawer held 42 completed operative notes from the previous week. The Voss file was not among them. When confronted the next morning, Fell opened his personal surgical log, a leather-bound book he maintained outside hospital records. Every operation for 2 decades was there. Patricia Voss appeared twice, once on March 14th, once on March 13th, the day before the surgery. Same patient, same operation, different notes. In the first entry, dated the 13th, Fell had written, "Patient presented with inflamed appendix. Standard laparoscopic removal, no complications. Closure at 2:14 p.m. In the second entry, dated the 14th, the same surgery description appeared word for word, but his handwriting was different, shakier, and at the bottom in the margin a single line. She came back. Fell died 11 months later. Suicide by carbon monoxide. The police found him in his garage with his surgical log open on the dashboard. Both entries for Patricia Voss had been torn out. The hospital's official records now contain only one operative note for that date, but it belongs to a different surgeon, a Dr. Raymond Howell, for a different patient entirely. The March 14th appendectomy vanished. Patricia Voss's family received no explanation. No autopsy was performed. What surgical procedure was Fell actually performing? And why did his own records show he had already completed it the day before?
On March 14, 1989, the scale in the basement of Mercy General's pathology lab registered 118 pounds for a body that, by the attending physician's measurements taken 6 hours earlier, weighed 187. Dr. Morris Keller had worked that scale for 23 years. It was a detectomechanical beam balance, calibrated annually, kept in the same corner of the cold room beside the metal autopsy table. The scale had never failed an inspection. The body was Marcus Reeves, 41, brought in at 2:15 a.m. from County Medical after a sudden cardiac event. The intake sheet listed his weight. The hospital chart listed his weight. The family had identified him at 8:40 p.m. the previous evening. Everything standard. Keller performed the external examination starting at 9:05 a.m. He measured. He noted. He weighed the body on the scale as procedure demanded. The reading was 118 pounds. He stopped. He checked the calibration weights. All correct. He weighed the body again. 116 pounds. He called his supervisor, Dr. Patricia Chen. She arrived at 9:47. She watched him place Reeves on the scale. 114 pounds. They waited. Reeves did not move. The needle did not drift. The reading held steady for 3 minutes, then dropped to 112. They pulled the body off. They reweighed it immediately. 111 pounds. Chen ordered the scale replaced that afternoon. A new detector was installed by 3:30 p.m. The old scale was sent for inspection. When it returned, 3 weeks later, verified by the manufacturer's testing lab, it was calibrated within 0.1 pounds of perfect. No mechanical failure. No wear. No malfunction. The body of Marcus Reeves was weighed on the replacement scale the next morning. It registered 89 pounds. Reeves remained in the cold room for 14 days pending family arrangements. His weight, measured daily on the new scale, decreased by 2 to 4 pounds per day. On the 14th day, before his body was transferred to Hartwell Funeral Home, the scale read 31 pounds. When Hartwell received him, they weighed him on their own scale. A Toledo, 5 years old, regularly serviced. The reading was 187 pounds. No autopsy was performed. Chen's request was declined by the family. No tissue samples were retained. The body was cremated. The pathology lab's records for March 14th through March 28th still exist. The scale readings are documented. The transfer paperwork from Mercy General to Hartwell is on file. Both weights, 31 pounds at departure, 187 pounds at arrival, are written in the same official hand. The manufacturer of Mercy General's original scale examined its inspection report from 1989. The scale's serial number matches. The calibration was perfect. There is no explanation for the readings Keller observed. Dr. Chen retired in 1992. She is deceased. Keller died in 2004. No formal investigation was ever opened. The case exists only in archived intake sheets and transfer documents that contradict each other by 156 pounds. A discrepancy no one has ever reconciled.
15 a.m., 28 pounds. He returned to the preparation room. 3 bodies awaited him that day. A 78-year-old man, a 64-year-old woman, a 41-year-old male. He embalmed them sequentially, a process that took him into the evening. The arterial work was routine. No complications. He drained each in turn into the same tank. By 6:40 p.m., when he weighed the tank again, it contained 98 pounds of fluid. That was the problem. 3 bodies should have yielded 105 to 115 pounds. Instead, 98. A difference of 7 to 17 pounds. Eugene emptied the tank, cleaned it, documented the weight. Empty. 28 pounds. He moved to his next shift, Wednesday morning. He brought the logbook with him. He'd already filled 3 pages by 1987. By 1993, he was on his 8th book. The entries were clinical: date, time, bodies processed, total drainage weight, any notes on the deceased's condition, edema, dehydration, emaciation. For the next 11 months, he continued the work. He noticed a pattern. Not every day, but roughly once every 2 weeks, the drainage would be light. Too light. The numbers didn't reconcile with what he was processing. A single body should leave trace weight in the pipes, in the settling chamber. The math always worked. The body's fluid content was measurable, predictable. Except it wasn't. On February 8, 1995, Eugene called the tank manufacturer in Ohio. He described the issue precisely: a deviation of 12 to 19 pounds over 11 months of operation. The manufacturer sent a technician. The man inspected the tank for 3 hours. He found nothing wrong. No leaks. No structural damage. The drainage lines were clear. The pump functioned normally. The technician weighed the tank empty. 28 pounds. He told Eugene the equipment was performing within specification. But here is what Eugene could not explain. On the days when the drainage weighed too little, he was always alone in the preparation room. No other staff. No witnesses to what he was doing. And on those days, he could never account for where the missing fluid had gone. It hadn't leaked. It hadn't evaporated. He'd tested that with containers of water left open for 12 hours. It hadn't siphoned into the municipal line. The city inspector confirmed that. The missing fluid, between 160 and 220 pounds across 11 months, had simply ceased to exist somewhere in the drainage system while Eugene was working. In March 1995, Eugene submitted his resignation. He cited no reason to his employers. He took the logbooks with him. He died in 23. His family donated his belongings to a local historical society in 28. The logbooks were found during cataloging. Entries stopped on February 8, 1995, the day after the manufacturer's visit. On the final page, in Eugene's precise handwriting, a single line: "It only happens when I am alone. I do not know where it goes." No other notes follow. No explanation. No theory. The logbooks remain in the Decatur Historical Society's archive. The drainage records, meticulous, quantified, undeniable, have never been reconciled with any known physical explanation.
On November 14, 1994, Dr. Marion Kessler's X-ray developer stopped moving film through its chemical baths. Dr. Kessler worked at Ridgemont Medical Center in Asheville, North Carolina, a mid-sized regional hospital with a basement radiology department that had operated continuously since 1967. She'd been the department's senior radiologist for 9 years. On the morning of the 14th, she arrived at 6:47 a.m., 15 minutes before her shift, and found all 7 chest X-rays from the previous evening's emergency intake still in the automatic processor. They hadn't advanced. The developer was running. The temperature was correct. The chemical baths showed no visible contamination. But no film had moved in roughly 8 hours. Kessler documented the malfunction in the equipment log at 6:52 a.m. She manually removed the 7 films, all ordered between 10:15 p.m. and 11:30 p.m. the night before. 6 of the 7 developed perfectly. The 7th came out blank. Not fogged. Not overexposed. Completely blank, as though no image had ever been captured. She pulled the work order for that 7th exposure. The patient was Thomas Herrick, 48 years old, admitted at 10:47 p.m. with acute chest pain. The order had been signed by Dr. Raymond Stokes at 10:51 p.m. The technician on duty, Sandra Voss, had logged the exposure at 11:12 p.m. 7-minute processing time was normal. But Sandra's log also noted something else. A second chest X-ray, ordered on the same patient, marked as taken at 11:19 p.m. There was no second film. Not in the processor. Not in any other darkroom. Not in the chemical waste. Not filed with the patient's chart. Kessler called Stokes that morning. He had no record of ordering a second exposure. Sandra Voss, when interviewed, confirmed she'd taken 2 films on Herrick that night. She remembered being frustrated because the first one came out blank and she didn't understand why. The machine was working fine on all other patients. So she took a second one. Thomas Herrick was discharged the next morning with a diagnosis of acid reflux. He never came back to the hospital. The radiography equipment was serviced that day. No mechanical failure was found. The developer resumed normal operation immediately. Every film taken before and after November 14th processed as expected. No other blank exposures appeared in any equipment log before or since. What no one could explain: why did a functioning machine stop processing specifically during those 8 hours? Why did one film come out completely blank while every other film from the same evening developed normally? And where was the second film that Sandra Voss was certain she had taken? The hospital's film inventory matched their ledger perfectly. The chemistry was documented. The processor was inspected and cleared. But one exposure simply disappeared. and the other left no image at all. On March 14, 1998, at 11:47 p.m., Derek Vance clocked out of the medical examiner's office in Ashford County using his personal keycard, a keycard that would be found the next morning, still inserted in the machine. Derek was 26 years old, employed as a morgue assistant at the Ashford County Coroner's Facility for 14 months. He worked the night shift, 6 p.m. to 2 a.m., 5 days a week. His job was simple: receive bodies from transport, log them into the system using their case number, prepare the coolers, assist with initial documentation. He was described by his supervisor, Dr. Patricia Chen, as meticulous, reliable, never late, never absent. On the evening of March 13th, Derek arrived at 5:58 p.m. He signed in at 6:01 p.m. The log shows a normal night. 3 bodies arrived between 7:15 and 9:30 p.m. Derek processed each one. At 11:30 p.m., he submitted his final documentation, an intake form for a 47-year-old male, case number 1998-1847. The form was dated and initialed. His handwriting was steady. At 11:47 p.m., his keycard was inserted into the clockout machine. The electronic timestamp printed onto the facility's master record. Derek Vance had clocked out. Here's the problem. At 12:03 a.m., Dr. Chen arrived for her own shift, an overlap period where she and Derek typically reviewed the night's intakes. She found Derek still in the building, not moving, not breathing, slumped against the cold storage unit in Bay 3, his body positioned as though he had simply stopped mid-stride and fallen backward. His eyes were open. His skin temperature matched the cooler's interior, 38 degrees Fahrenheit. The autopsy, conducted by Dr. Michael Strahan, a colleague, showed no signs of blunt force trauma, no evidence of poisoning, no cardiac event, no pulmonary failure. His heart had been normal. His lungs were clear. His blood work returned clean. Derek Vance had simply died, sometime between 11:47 p.m. and 12:03 p.m. 16 minutes, give or take. But here is what the investigation could not reconcile. Derek's keycard was not in his possession. It was still in the clockout machine. More than that, the machine's mechanical printhead had struck the card 5 times. 5 separate clockout attempts, each one time-stamped at 1-minute intervals: 11:47 p.m., 11:48 p.m., 11:49 p.m., 11:50 p.m., and 11:51 p.m. The machine had no malfunction. The card had not jammed. Someone, or something, had continued feeding it into the slot over and over for 4 minutes after the first successful clockout. Derek's hands were found empty and undamaged. The keycard bore no signs of forced insertion. The clockout machine had never malfunctioned before, nor did it malfunction after. The case was closed as death by unknown causes. Derek Vance was buried on March 21st. His keycard was returned to his family and never used again. But the question remains open, and it is this: who clocked him out 5 times? And if Derek was already dead by 11:50 p.m., why was someone still trying?